Hey, you've tuned in to the GFree and Happy show. Tonight, we are talking about Kickstarter and the Celiac Project with guests Michael and his wife Ellen with the CeliacProject.com. So stay tuned. Hey, welcome to the GFree and Happy show that happens every Monday night at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. I'm your host, Kathy, and I have been GFree and Happy for 5 years now. Tonight I have a really special guest. It's all about Celiac Month, by the way. So we have Celiac Michael with the Celiac Project and his wife Ellen, and actually their nephew Sam will be on in just a few minutes. They're going to talk about their documentary that they are building with the help of Kickstarter, and it's really an amazing documentary. And we'll be showing the trailer, and we'll be talking to Michael and Ellen and Sam all about the project and how they're developing this cool thing with interviews. And just wait till you see this. I am amazed at what they have done. But first, what number are we on? 72 of the GFree and Happy show is brought to you by mesadevita.com. Menus by Mesa DeVita help bring you more life to the table. Chef-designed gluten-free recipes, menus, and online cooking classes to help you save time, save money, and make you a healthy kitchen rock star. Thank you, Chef Kirsten with mesadevita.com for sponsoring my shows. So we're going to bring them on in just a few seconds here, but first I want to start the trailer for the documentary because I think it's amazing. So watch it.
People thought I was dying. I looked terrible.
My hair was falling out. I was always having terrible joint and bone pain.
You have irritable bowel, you're anxious, you're a type A personality.
The doctors thought I was bulimic.
I was diagnosed with MS.
I thought I had cancer.
One person actually said to me, "We think you have cancer, but we can't find it."
And I looked at them and I said, "I'm dying and no one's gonna find out what's wrong with me."
My diagnosis was one of those you read about in the horror celiac stories. It took a long time.
And it officially took 7 years to get the actual correct diagnosis.
I was just right about on the 11-year mark when I was diagnosed.
For me, it's a little bit different. I was sick from the time I was 3.
They were realizing that nothing was going away. The symptoms kept coming and persisting and it kept getting worse, is when they thought that maybe it was more mental.
Sometimes I thought it was emotional, like, do I have depression? Am I manic?
I never really knew that something was wrong initially. I just had symptoms like I'd get bloating, I'd have a problem with gas.
You can hear my stomach from across the room a lot.
In the process of being diagnosed, I was hospitalized twice.
I was hospitalized quite a bit throughout my teenage years. Multiple times I was on my way to the operating room.
But I did get a letter in the mail on like a Friday afternoon, I remember, which was sort of a bad way to get this kind of news, that said I had celiac disease.
We did blood work and it showed possibly that it was celiac disease, and at that point I'd never heard of celiac disease before.
So let's test you for celiac disease and we'll test you for a couple other things. I said, it's really kind of a waste because I haven't had it for 30 some odd years. It's not like I'm going to develop it now. And he goes, humor me. And then I got a phone call back a week later and said, you're off the charts.
And my neurologist sat down and he said, how did you get this diagnosis? And I told him.
So just getting that answer and knowing what was wrong with you was a lot. And all the crazy symptoms I thought I was having, it all fit. It all fit and it all made sense.
I was kind of happy because number one, I knew I didn't have cancer, but number two, I knew it was something that was treatable, and that's one of the nice things about it. I tell people all the time, if the worst thing that happens to me is I'm diagnosed with celiac disease, I feel pretty lucky because the treatment is just changing your diet a little bit.
It's the hardest thing to diagnose with the simplest cure. Just don't eat that. It's serious long term. It's a manageable day-to-day thing, but if you're not diagnosed, and you're still sick and you're not getting it fixed, you can really, really hurt yourself.
And he looked at me and he said, I don't think you have MS. I think you have celiac disease. I don't think you have MS. And which was not at all what I was expecting, which was like the best gift I ever could have gotten. And to me that meant, okay, it's an adjustment in diet, but I will probably not be in a wheelchair at my son's high school graduation.
Could you imagine if we had that in like every doctor's office, all the TVs, everywhere, that we could all watch that, just that little bit? It makes me want to tear up because it's so really good. 5 minutes, 3 minutes of just really good information that you can read about and look at pictures or visuals, whatever. But that was some powerful stuff. So let's bring on Michael, and actually his nephew Sam is going to start it off with him, and then we'll bring in Ellen after that. So hello guys.
Hi there.
Hi.
Happy to be here. Thanks.
So
Kat.
nice. Yeah, so nice to have you on. It's a really, this is what I do this show for, is for what I just saw. And how amazing is it that you guys put your blood, sweat, and tears, money too, into this project, and look at what you've done. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Okay, so I guess I should start with my story. So I'm a filmmaker, and but many years before I knew I had celiac disease, I got married to my lovely wife Ellen, and we moved off to LA. I'm from the Chicago area, and I had always, I think all my life, had different health issues. Even now looking back, I had issues when I was an adolescent, and I had a lot of the typical stomach issues. I had skin problems, I had brain fog, I had a lot of the typical things that people now associate with celiac disease. And I went to a good doctor, but celiac disease never came up. And fast forward, we got married, we moved off to Los Angeles, where my wife is a musician, and I was pursuing a career as a television editor. And the career was going well, but I at that point, which was now over 10 years ago, my health was in steady decline, and I couldn't figure out why. I had intestinal problems. As I say, I had this skin rash that where my skin felt like I was going to itch it off. I would wake up and have what I would call some sort of brain fog it would take me like 2 hours to get going in the morning. I was fatigued. I was actually in a softball league and was sliding into second base, and I fractured my wrist just on a slide that now I know was because I had some bone issues related to my celiac. So we moved back to the Chicago area about 6 years ago, still feeling terrible, and I simply, because of where I was working out of my home, I changed doctors. And my doctor just sat, and for about an hour and a half, I told her everything that I was going through, and she was taking notes. And unbeknownst to me, she tested me for celiac disease, and I had never really heard of it. I think a couple times I was on the internet, and I almost diagnosed myself with a gluten issue, but I would realize I would eat like a box of pretzels when I wasn't feeling well to sort of soothe myself. And I found out later, it didn't matter if I was having a salad or a deep dish pizza. By the time I got tested, I had no villi at all. So I was, in really bad shape. I got the call that I had celiac disease, and very quickly I realized this is ridiculous that I had to suffer for at least 20 years of my life not knowing what was going on. And sure enough, I started just talking to other people that I knew, that I started to get to know who had celiac disease, and I found their stories were even more harrowing than mine, and people were just in such bad shape. And so very quickly I decided I have to tell my story, tell other people's stories. And when I started working on the film, something interesting happened where our daughter at 3.5 got diagnosed. Pretty much out of the blue, she was having some of the little tummy troubles, and we were sort of monitoring her, and luckily we caught that early. And then Sam, who was sitting next to me, the story is really interesting. Sam has two younger brothers, each are about 4 years apart, and the middle brother, Abe, was having the typical digestive issues that someone with celiac has. And the University of Chicago has a free blood screening every year if you have a close relative who has celiac disease. So I said to my sister, you should get Abe tested, but you know what, have them all tested, just rule it out for the other two. And we were all shocked. I think Sam will tell you, I let him speak in his own words, but we were all blown away because I was about 70% sure that his brother Abe would have celiac. Nobody even had the slightest inkling that Sam would come back positive. He was almost asymptomatic. I'm gonna toot his horn a little bit. He got one off a perfect ACT. He's a junior in high school. He's about as calm and even as they come, and I joke to him that I get emotional when I talk about him because I love this kid so much. But he's a model student. He's never had behavioral problems, and his villi, when they did the endoscopy, was just like mine, where he had no villi, and his blood test was off the charts for celiac. So it was another sort of mind-blowing moment where I thought I was diagnosed after having 20 plus years of struggles, and then my daughter was diagnosed very young, starting to show some signs, and then my nephew is almost completely asymptomatic, and I really saw the different ways that this disease can manifest itself, and thought, wow, this is giving me more momentum and showing me we really have to expand this project and make it something really sort of longer and more substantive and really get to as many stories and get as many experts involved, and that's what I did.
You did an amazing job there. But Sam, before Ellen comes on, can you tell us a little bit about your story? And it was a surprise, it sounds like, but you must not have been feeling very good.
I was actually feeling fine, and my brother, he was at the point where he was sometimes puking maybe 2 nights a week in the night, and I was feeling fine. So we all went in for the test, and I don't like needles. I was like, oh, this is a waste of my time. I'm not gonna have this. And then a couple of weeks later, my parents, they called me downstairs. I was about to go to bed. They sit me down on the couch. They say, the doctors called, one of these tests came back. And the first thing I said was, oh, it's Abe, right? Because it was like so out of my imagination that it would be me. And they said, no, it's you. And I said, wow, like I didn't believe it. And then I went in for the endoscopy a couple of weeks later, and they said right afterwards, you have no villi. And I still didn't really believe it because I hadn't felt anything. But by the time I'd gone off gluten, like within maybe 2-3 months, I started feeling better, just more energy.
Yeah, so if you didn't have the symptoms, or you didn't think so, how did they just tested you because of the family? Right. And you're feeling good without any gluten now. That's very unusual. I've never heard of that. It's usually a sick, people that cannot ingest another piece of gluten. So it's very interesting, your story, Sam, and I'm glad you're okay. And your brothers?
They've been not completely gluten-free, but since we keep the home gluten-free, they're eating mostly gluten-free, and I'd say both of them are feeling better too.
Good. Glad to hear that. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. This is something that's interesting to me, and something that I really hope about Sam and feel is that it seems like because he had the no villi and because his blood test came back so high, is that he was sort of a ticking time bomb. He wasn't getting nutrients, and I don't know if it's his youth or whatever, but
Good point.
he really, I think the doctors seem to suggest that it was good that he got, that it got discovered now, because really he's growing like a weed. He's taller than me almost, and he
wasn't anemic or anything because of that?
No, he really,
Wow.
I mean, I'll let you talk. Did you?
I ate a lot, and I thought I was just growing like a regular kid. I mean,
It's interesting. I had never heard of that. Now let's talk about the Celiac Project now.
Okay.
So now there's a reason why to start this. How did this go about?
Okay, so I started, as I said, as a filmmaker. It was sort of insane to me that this condition sort of had afflicted me for most of my life, and that I really didn't know anything about it. And then again, I was sort of in my mind, I was like, I need to find some great stories to tell. And I was at a benefit that the University of Chicago Celiac department was having, and actually met two doctors. They're Dr. Sullivan. They are married. They met in medical school, and their story fascinated me. They both, as I say, they met in medical school. They are just a little bit older than me. I'm in my mid-40s, and they, neither of them knew they had celiac disease. They got married, started having kids, and then one by one, they all started getting diagnosed. And I thought, wow, I'd love to tell their story. And also when I interviewed them, they actually said, one of the doctors took out his book from medical school, and he said, in this sort of 800 or so page text, there was like one paragraph about celiac disease, and they were taught about it one day in medical school, and said that it was something that was rare in the United States and you'll never see it. We clearly know that is not the case. And from there, I started reaching out to people. I met a screenwriter and a screenwriting teacher at DePaul, and he and I had similar interests. He was into sports, and we're both film guys, and he told me his story, and it was eerily similar to me, but there were hospitalizations. And the interesting thing, Kathy, is I started these were people like in my community, and it wasn't like I had to search for people's stories of struggle. They were all just there, like anybody I talked to. And so I was really sort of passionate that we had to tell stories. We were able to actually get to the ICDS, the International Celiac Symposium this past year, was in Chicago, sponsored by the UFC, and we got to talk to some of the top experts, not only in this country, but in the world, about celiac disease, and that was such an incredible thing. So we want to tell stories. We have the top experts, and we want to do so much with this. So that's sort of how it got started. And as I said, it just gained momentum.
Because you were, by the way, that happens in my community. If I wear the Gluten-free shirt or the GFree and Happy shirt, and people come up to me, especially if it has celiac on it, people will walk up to me and tell me their story, which I assume that's what happened with you. But so take me back to then you took a camera when you were interviewing these doctors and stuff. How did since you were part of the TV community, I guess, you started just filming these people? Did you have this in mind that you were going to do the project at the beginning?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to do something, and when I met these two doctors who, again, were married and didn't know about celiac, that was sort of the first foray, and I didn't know what it was going to be like. And I sat down a couple years ago and interviewed them, and then I sort of put it away, and then my daughter was diagnosed, and I was like, this is strange.
We have to do this, yeah.
It was one of those things that kept gnawing at me. And then, so it was really like a small passion project where we said, well, I don't know where this is going to go, but I know I have to explore it. And as I said, as the family part of it started growing, and I thought, this has been an interesting domino effect where I get diagnosed, and then my daughter, and then my nephew, and then I was hearing similar stories from people, and then I was, as I say, reaching out to people in the community, and each story, it seemed, got more dramatic, and I thought, it just still drives me crazy. You know, something that these doctors said, Kathy, when we talked to them at ICDS, is that these doctors, you know, I had a really good doctor for many, many years, and it wasn't that he was a terrible doctor who didn't care about me. He just had a huge blind spot about what celiac disease was because of when he went to medical school. And so part of what we want to do with this is, you know, as you alluded to in the beginning, is to really show doctors, you know, at ICDS, we were talking about how there are neurological symptoms, there are all these joint and bone issues, and the list goes on and on. As I think we said in the trailer, something like 300 known symptoms. And so we really want to raise awareness to the general public and to doctors, and show that this is as when we talked to Dr. Fasano, he called it a medical chameleon, because it shows up in so many ways. Because I think there's this misconception out there that it's tummy troubles, and we want to help, you know,
take a pill to get rid of.
Right.
But that's another thing. If you actually get this out to the community, you know, at large, especially those doctors, maybe they, you know, can help those poor people on your trailer who were saying that they were diagnosed with cancer and it ended up that they were celiac. I mean, those kind of things would be really nice if we got rid of the years, 20 years and things like that. So you're going to do this project. Is your whole family involved? Are you still working on this? Have you got most of it done? Because we're going to bring in the Kickstarter project here that you've got going. So people, before my show's over, I got to get this going, because this is some seed money for your project. And I want to talk about Kickstarter, because a lot of the celiac community wants to use Kickstarter to raise awareness and to start their products off. So give us a little input on why you picked Kickstarter to do this.
Very good question. So when we realized we had sort of bootstrapped this and we got as far as we could on our own, we realized, my wife Ellen and I realized, that we could go to sort of some of these gluten-free companies and try to raise money that way. But a better way, you know, crowdfunding, Kickstarter, Indiegogo are these sites that you can really build a community and a following.
Yes, that's it. Build the community.
Exactly, and because we don't. This isn't just about raising money, and we're really happy. We've had such a great response.
You're doing very well.
Yeah, we're 90%, I think, of our money raised as of now, and so we're sort of heading into the home stretch. But we knew that this was about creating a community that was as passionate about seeing a film like this as we were, and the response, the feedback that we've gotten has just humbled me, and it's just incredible, because people from other countries have reached out to me. People have shared their stories. It's actually helped, you know, sort of round out some of the content that's going to be in the film, and just inspired me as a filmmaker to make this even better. One of the things that we're going to do is have some dynamic animations that show the processes that happen when you have celiac, and we want to tackle the gluten issues that are out there, and how gluten is seen in the media now, and some of the marginalization that's going on. So I'm really ambitious about this, and want to make a really dynamic project that's going to help get people diagnosed, help show people what this is really about, and just help people. That's
well, and you have a couple videos on your Kickstarter page, which is I'm showing as you're talking, and 145 backers, $30,771 raised or pledged, and you only have, well, by the end of this show, it'll be basically 5 days to go. So everybody that is watching tonight and watching on YouTube that still has days to go, and iTunes, please just, it says you could do $1 if possible, because we want to get this documentary out. But if this reaches 33 in the next 6 days, we're getting the documentary out right away. Or, you're going to be working on that. And will you be doing updates too for everybody?
We'll keep people up to date, because once they email me, they're part of the Celiac project. Again, this isn't about me or Sam. It's about everybody who's touched by this, and we really want to help everybody out there who has celiac, people who don't know they have celiac. So yeah, like you said, no amount is too small, and just if you can check it out, and we're so appreciative of people sending it on to people that they know who might have interest and all that. We really appreciate it.
And you've got all the information about how much the pledges can be, and you've got some great prizes too if you do some big time. We didn't get Ellen on here. Is Ellen still there?
I think Ellen's here, yes.
Okay. Before we stop, Ellen, give us some of your information that you want. Like, tell us a little bit about why you're doing the Celiac project.
Hi,
Ellen.
Thanks for having us, by the way.
Oh, anytime. I'm happy to have you. Yes.
Thanks. Well, I, as Michael had mentioned before, I'm a musician, but I guess sort of I'm a producer on the side. And this is a passion project for me just as much, because, it was really hard. I had to watch Michael suffer, I think, really since we met, because we met 14 years ago, and he's been having symptoms since long before I met him. So, I think watching him have just this sort of slow, long, drawn out illnesses and just all sorts of things that were just bugging him to the point that it was just really hard to kind of get through the day. I think by the end, I wasn't even sure where that happened, how that started, because it was such a slow kind of process that by the end, I didn't realize how sick he really was. I don't think.
It's almost like we need to have a test for every single person that goes with any, because look at your nephew too. He didn't have any symptoms.
And there's countries like in Italy, I don't remember the age, but there's a certain school age, I don't know if it's 8 or 10 years old, where all the kids get tested mandatorily.
Really?
Yeah, it's mandatory testing, and they just there's just a different awareness level already. So I feel like the U.S. is quite a bit behind some other countries.
I didn't even know that, so thank you for saying that too. I had no idea.
And so people like Sam, would have been just found out.
Yeah.
Michael just...
Life would be so much better if we had a test like that, and doctors were able to kind of recognize. I know there's, what'd you say, 300 symptoms that it could be?
That's what they're saying. UFC is estimating about that. Yeah, and the thing is, one of the last points I want to make is, and why I think it's so important, I think some people shudder when they hear gluten-free or the life change, but for me, it's like you get your life back, and you're never going to get the time back that you lost not feeling well, but it's really important to get diagnosed and get your life back and get your life on track. And again, that's why I'm happy that Sam got diagnosed now and my daughter Jessica got diagnosed, because hopefully they don't have the same health issues that I have. And if we can get even, I know it sounds cliche, but one person diagnosed from this film, we've done our job, but hopefully we'll get a whole lot of people diagnosed.
And you have a great partner in Ellen who is helping out there too, quite a bit. Yes. So I'm going to have you on again to get some updates after this. I want everybody, Ellen, why don't you tell everybody where they should go tonight, or as soon as you've watched this, where should they go to pledge or to check out what you guys are up to?
So you can go right onto the Kickstarter website, which is kickstarter.com. And then at the top, there's a little search icon, and you can put in the Celiac Project, and it'll just pop up. And you can click on it, and you can read, you can just watch the trailer, which is a different trailer than what you showed.
Right at the top here.
Yep, there's we've got like four experts on that one. And you can also scroll down on the page. You can see we're actually super excited to raise our $33,800 as soon as we can, because we're so pumped about seeing if we can make some of our stretch goals, because we sort of asked for the bare minimum that was going to get us finished with this film in a timely manner, but we're really have bigger plans, and we're really pushing to try to get those plans like graphic design, and we've got just you can read down on the page. You'll be able to see some of those.
We had it up. Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
You both are amazing in what you guys are trying to do. And I hope this, like you said, I want to hear updates. Everybody follow them. At the bottom is celiacproject.com. It also has their Twitter page, their Facebook page. Their Facebook is, isn't it just Celiac Project?
Yeah, Facebook/Celiac Project.
Yeah, so everybody follow them, check them out, give a pledge if you can, because it helps all of us. It helps all your kids. It helps everybody in your family. Thank you both for being a part of my show tonight. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
We had a great time. Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy.
So please check out the celiacproject.com. It's a wonderful project, documentary. Let's get it up and going. So I have some exciting news tonight, and I will be going through this exciting news in the next couple weeks. GFree and Happy Show is now going to have a co-host, and the co-host is Kathleen with Gluten-free. I just love her. Actually, my name is Kathleen, so there'll be two Kathleens doing the show, and we'll be bringing on guests like this, and we'll be talking newsworthy things about the celiac community, and products and things like that. I will be updating everybody in the next few weeks. Until then, you guys all have a great GFree and Happy week.